Started. Oh, there we go. All right. So I'm James Gittens with the Office of Veteran Success. Today is 10/23/2020 at 3:02 p.m. And I have here with me Miss Brande Stow. And Brande, you're going to go ahead and just introduce yourself, your name, branch, MOS, and take us down, how service has impacted you and from the past to your service in the military. And then you keep going. It's your story.
Okay, so it wasn't an MOS, it was an AFSC. I was in the Air Force, so it's different. My name is Brande Stow. Like I just said, I was in the Air Force. I initially started out as a dental technician, and I cross-trained into personnel, which is admin, for those not Air Force. I am a social work major with a minor in criminology here on the Tampa campus. I joined the Air Force, I would say, by accident. It really wasn't my intention. I had never thought about it, although my grandfather was in the military.
Mm-hmm.
I was waiting for my brother, who was an Army reservist, and he was inside talking to an Army active duty recruiter, and it was super hot, and an Air Force recruiter asked me, did I want a Coke? If I wanted to come inside and into the air conditioning for a soda. And so I came inside and he sat me down, drank a Coke.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you. Give me 1 second, please. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Let's see here. Hey, buddy. We've got 2 dogs in the office today. King, go lay down. No. No. One's 3 and the other one is newly born. So working on those things. I'm so sorry. So if you could take me back through the Coke and all of that, I apologize.
That's all right. Okay, I'll just start over with that. Oh, I lost my whole train of thought. It's okay. So nothing really motivated me to join the military. I was actually at a recruiting station with my brother, who was an Army reservist, and he was talking to an active duty recruiter, and it was super hot outside. I didn't want to sit there and listen to that. And an Air Force recruiter came outside and offered me a Coke. So I went inside and he gave me the Coke. We started talking. I really wasn't doing anything with my life at that point. I had a young son. He put the videos on for me, and school's paid for. This is great. It's awesome. You're going to get money and everything's going to be taken care of. Join the Air Force. And the basic training isn't as long as everybody else's. So this is really the branch for you, pretty much was how it went. And that was where it all started. I didn't really think about how long I would enlist, if I was going to stay 20 years, if I was going to just do one tour. And I just ended up staying, and I loved it. So it raised my children.
And how many children do you have now?
So I have 2, a 21-year-old. She just turned 21, and then my son will be 30 in a few months. So they don't really particularly care for it. My son definitely does not want to join the military, which is fine, and my daughter was going to join, and then she changed her mind, and then she goes back and forth, and then so I'm just going to let her come to it on her own. There's still time.
Yeah. And what are their names?
My daughter's name is Zoe, and my son's name is Noel.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Zoe Noel.
Yeah.
So right now, that takes me. Is there anything in particular while you were in the service that kind of that highlights any kind of transitional periods for you in terms of what you're doing now, or with service, or anything like that?
So I don't say, or I wouldn't say anything happened to me in the military that prompted me to go into social work. I have always been the kind of person that if somebody needed me, I would be there, always trying to help out, um, always trying to that kind of thing. But two things that stood out, I was in basic training when the Oklahoma City bombing happened. Obviously, when 9/11 happened, that affected everybody. And I saw how, as veterans, when things like that happen, or, we have to go into deployment and we come back and we just need somebody to talk to. And there's just so many things. And there are people who just don't understand. Those instances affected everybody. But as a veteran and people who were in during those periods, it affected us differently. Whether you deployed or you didn't deploy. Our work environment changed. Like everything just changed. And I have close friends, I have family members that it affected them a lot. And they won't talk to people who have not been in the military. They, have, it's been recommended that they go seek treatment or therapy or counseling, and they refuse it because they're not referred to somebody who knows what they've been through, somebody who's in the military, knows the lingo, can understand what they're talking about. And they don't feel like it's effective. So they just don't go, which is definitely not effective. So that's one thing that made me want to go into the field of social worker or social work that I'm going into, which is to work specifically with veterans, because I know that's what we need. I know, I'm able to understand what, more so what somebody's going through or has been through, the lingo, just the whole attitude, and
yeah,
I think that's more beneficial.
It's very relatable. I mean, I was just doing I was watching a seminar with Dr. Joy DeGray Leary, but anyway, she touches on the fact that when you're touching some point of critical theory, for this one, what you're speaking on, I mean, I really reminds me of veteran critical theory. When you're talking about that, I mean, being able to step into the uniform, not being able to just have the knowledge, but being able to say that, hey, being a veteran, having an identity is something that I wake up with, I walk in the house with, and like you said, the community and different disciplines, they don't see that unless you've experienced it, and
Right.
so then you can't even talk about it, right? And it's just no different for me, as much as I enjoy feminist theory and I'm a supporter, I'm still not a female, no
Right.
more than you are African American, such as myself. So it does take that connection, if you will, in order to really help out the community, especially one that's mitigated or not seen, and that's on the fringes, which is ironic, right? Because
Yeah.
it's the one that serves, the one that's there in front of you every single day, but that's typically what happens to groups, sexes, and classes. So that's unfortunate. And it's really noble of you to really do that. And so prior to, I don't mean to jump too far back, but you said you'd always been a part of that social work, that aspect. Is there any place in specific where that started off from, or that started off in childhood, and then you started working with certain groups or certain clubs, and then you worked at a certain organization prior to the military?
Not specifically. I went through a rough in my and that was around the time that I got out of the military, and I met two women who were social workers, and just going through like a program with them, therapy with them, that is really what prompted me to want to become a social worker. Um, and like when I think back, it always makes me kind of emotional thinking about it, because I never, I always knew that I wanted to help people. Like I always knew that, it didn't matter what capacity. Like if a friend called, I was always there. If, I mean, whatever. But when I was going through that time in my life and I met these women, and I just it just clicked. It just clicked.
Mm-hmm.
And I just knew I wanted to do what they were doing, you know.
Yeah.
And even going through the classes that I'm taking at USF, I can see everything that they did, you know, and it's pretty amazing because I'm like, oh, now I know why they were saying those things or why they were doing those things. And I talk to them, you know, not as often as I like, but I talk to them and I tell them, like, you know, I see what you were doing. You know, I know why you said those things.
It's nice
And
that you can feel that growth. You can
yeah,
see that
yeah,
aha moment.
it's pretty amazing. But these women, Dr. Anita Fly and Shannon Gresham, they're out of Louisiana, Shreveport, Louisiana. But they are the reasons why I became a social worker. Definitely.
Amazing, amazing. Louisiana that touches home a little bit. I was stationed in Leesville, Fort Polk.
Oh,
Everyone talks bad about it, but I loved Fort Polk. Say what you
I've
want.
been there.
Oh,
I've
what?
been there.
Don't
Yeah.
shake your head. What?
No,
Oh.
no, no.
Oh, yeah. I guess that's just me. It was my first introduction into to what it was like to go through like real floods.
Okay.
I've never seen a flood take out a highway
Yeah.
before living in Louisiana, and I was like, and when one took one out, two cars in front of me, and we had to hit the reverse, and I was like, we have to go now. Like, why does every state that I live in try to kill me via
Yeah.
earthquake, tornado? I'm just like, I don't know.
Hurricane.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Do you have anything today that's like any kind of archival data? You know, it could be a photo of your family, something that inspires you. Because I know sometimes with my studies, I get kind of torn down, you know, with what I'm doing, and I have to either think or remember, you know, my twin sister. She inspires me, or I think about, you know, I have this old warrior ethos thing that I keep in my wallet, and my Ranger coin I keep in my wallet, and it was a drill sergeant's when I first entered the military, and he made us sit down. You've got 10 minutes to memorize this, and no one took it serious. Like, who can memorize this whole thing in 10 minutes? And so I did it, and I said it out loud in front of everybody. And he was about to retire at the time. And he took it out of his left breast pocket, and he gave it to me. It had all these holes in it because back in the day before Velcro, like you only could pin it
Right.
in there, and it's still riddled like that. And it just it touched me because it made me feel like even though I had no concept of the military, I had family in the military, but I didn't know too much about them, that maybe potentially this could be the step in the right direction, because if this guy sees it and he's got this experience, maybe I belong here. So do you have any of those kind of things that have happened to you?
Um, I've never really thought about it. Like, I have my military stuff up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, but I've never really thought about it, quite honestly. I have a lot of family members that have been in the military. My grandfather was a sergeant pilot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're familiar with that, but back in World War II, they were enlisted pilots, you know, and I just you know, have pictures of him up. And my brother was in the Army and the Navy. My cousin was a Marine. My nephew, who I'm so proud of, he was in the Marines. And there's just a lot of us who have decided to take that step and serve our country in that way. And there wasn't really one specific thing that, you know, I can think back and be like, you know, I know. Um, I think for me, it's just the women that I served with that are my best friends to this day. You know, that that's those friendships that I have sustain me. They have carried me through like everything that I've been through. They have been there and supported me, as we all have, because each one of us has been through something, you know. And I think the military, that camaraderie and that morale and those friendships that you gain, like, you can't get that anyplace else. You can't go into a work environment and make those connections and those friendships and those, you know, it's just so different.
Yes.
And unless you've experienced it, you just can't understand the connection. Even just speaking to you, I don't know you, you know, but there's a connection because of that status, because we know what it's like serving, and I try to even explain it to my kids, and they just don't get it. And they have good friends. They have friends that they've had for years, but it's just a different kind of connection.
It is.
You know what
It's that bond. It's that bond, and it's I remember when I first got out, and I was so confident at first. I was really excited. 5.5 years, 2 deployments, and I was ready. My body was ready after 2 surgeries. It was ready, and I remember getting off post, and I got the U-Haul in tow, and I remember leaving the gates of Fort Polk, and I remember the feeling of fear I felt as soon as I drove off post.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized that I just left my security.
Yeah.
And like I felt like I just left the patrol base. I didn't even have a battle buddy with me.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I was driving to go live with the person who was my bunkmate in basic training, and we went through airborne school and selection together. We passed all that same battalion, and even though I was driving to go live with him in Florida, I was terrified because I felt that my identity somehow wasn't one. It was back to just being a black male in America, and then at the same time, well, now I'm a veteran, and even though I heard all the great things about what veterans might be perceived as in certain circles, I was just getting out when there was a lot of violence, protesting, and the social political environment was just very scary. So things like that was made me nervous, and I think when we speak upon those things, or if we don't speak upon those things, that doesn't do a great credit to history, because
Right.
We want that change for veterans. We want to make sure that for me, it's a personal vendetta and goal to make sure that female leadership takes place, not only in the military but outside the military, and then to make sure that every person that is a veteran gets identified within the community. It's a huge part of social work. It's so hard because of the research. We need more research, but somehow it's hard to do.
Yeah, I'm not a research kind of person, but I think that was the hardest thing for me to do, was to become a civilian.
Mm.
Like that, just even working in that environment, because we talk different, our attitude is different. It's and I mean, thankfully, the job I got here in Florida, my coworker was a veteran also.
Mhm.
So it helped because she understood. Nobody else was, but she did. But it was just, it's difficult because our work ethic is different. It's, for the most part. I'm not saying that, uh, civilians don't have a good work ethic, but a lot of them don't, but it's just different. I unfortunately, I've become Master Sergeant Stow sometimes, and made people cry. So like, and not intentionally, but I'm so used to, when I tell you to do something, I expect it to get done, and I shouldn't have to tell you 2 or 3 times. Like, just do what I asked you to do, and get it done.
I've told you twice. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a little more difficult to kind of reel that in, and that's why I have to work with veterans. Like, I just, like I have to work with somebody who understands that, because
It's your sense of urgency. It's really trying to complete the objective, the task at hand, and making sure you're respecting the. For us, it was the standard operating procedures, and it's just, for me, that is everything, And I used to be so OCD, and everyone's like, "Oh, James, relax, JJ, relax," and I hate it when people tell me to relax, because I'm fine. I'm fine.
Right. Exactly.
I don't think you are.
That's exactly what it is. I'm fine, but now that you told me to be fine, I'm not going to be fine, because I was fine before. So.
Yes, and it's just that it's the culture within the culture. It's crazy, and now, because we have been utilizing education a lot more frequently with the GI Bill, and we have seen a huge difference between the problems of World War One, World War Two, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, to Iraq to Afghanistan. You see such a difference in how we want to be noticed and how different groups, cultures, and religions, practices want to be noticed. And now it's just like, now we are trying to stand in the same box. We're like, hey, we need help, and we're tired of you not seeing it. You need to get and if it wasn't for us, the boost in the education system never would have happened in the first place. So pay attention.
Right. Exactly.
So, and I think things like this are really going to help out. So, and you said before you didn't have any kind of thing that you wanted to show. I mean, you can always upload it and send it to Amy if you want. You don't have to. That's fine.
Well, I had photographs.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So I have photographs just of like my brother and my uncle was in the Navy. So I just have those military photographs.
Well, if it isn't, and I remember you saying before, like that wasn't really what decided for you to serve. That was, it's something that obviously it's within your atmosphere, but
Right.
for you, that was on you,
Right.
So for my takeaway, that's your ownership. That you're the own protagonist of your own story, and that's how you see it. To me, more power to you for it. So. I'm going to recommend when Amber Miller gets a chance to look at this video and I look through it, I'm like, hey, that part right there, she's clearly making a statement that she's led the way. Everybody else, they've been a part of the community and they've, of course, they matter, but that did not impact it. This is an individual making an individual decision. And what was best for her as not only as an adult but as a mother, and it seemed like the best option at the time, based on happenstances. And that's yours, Mm-hmm. So I'm not into posturing stories. That's not I think the more individuality, it makes that's the beauty of it, Yeah. So but no, thank you for your time. I think that that's definitely going to do it. I know you probably get back to being super mom and helping veterans like me out. So I really appreciate your time.
You're welcome. No problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
You too. Bye.